Everyone, welcome everyone to the daily news analysis of today, that is 13th October, 13th October 2023। तो आज के इम्पोर्टेंट हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर से जितने भी सभी इम्पोर्टेंट आर्टिकल है कवर करेंगे उसमें। तो पहला जो है क्या, इंडिया रेट्स इट्स कॉल फॉर ए sovereign Palestine state. Then retail inflation cooled from 6.83% in August to 5% in September. Then India ranks 111 out of 125 countries in hunger index, a key step by Bihar to promote better social justice. Then should the 50% legal ceiling on reservation be reconsidered? The case for caste census in India. Proposal for acquisition of aircraft carrier LCA and Mark 1A. ये पूरे देखेंगे। Jet lined up approval by DAC. Then India should learn a lesson from attack on Israel, says NSG chief. NSG chief कौन? Then India should learn lesson from attack on Israel, says NSG chief. Then Supreme Court urges women to rethink plea to end a 26-week pregnancy. Okay, then IIP rises at 14%, high of 10%, 10.3%. तो कितना हुआ इसका 10.3% राइज। चलिए वन बाई वन देखते हैं। पहला जो है इंडिया reiterate call for a sovereign Palestinian state. India reiterates its call reiterated its call for a creation of a sovereign Palestinian state on Thursday, with the Ministry of External Affairs (MEA) saying that there was an obligation to uphold humanitarian principles. Operation Ajay, India's mission to rescue its citizens from conflict-hit Israel, began on Thursday evening with an Air India flight reaching Israel to evacuate 230 Indians. According to a PTI report, the flight is expected to return to the national capital at around 5 a.m. on Friday. MEA spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said that at his weekly press briefing that India is in close contact with the relevant stakeholders on the fact on the fact unfolding situation. India always advocated the resumption of direct negotiation towards establishing a sovereign, independent, and variable state Palestine, living within secure and recognized border side by side at peace with Israel. Mr. Bagchi said, emphasizing that India's position on Palestine has been long-standing and consistent, and that there has been no change in that policy. Earlier in the day, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar had a round of meeting with ministry officials to stock of the situation. Take stock of the situation. Mr. Bagchi added that there are around 18,000 Indians in Israel right now, with about in the West Bank and at least four in Gaza Strip, and 18,000 Indians. Dozens in West Bank and at least four in Gaza Strip that is being bombed by Israel. This is a dynamic situation. It is evolving I would request Indian Israel, please do register with Embassy of India if you have not registered till now. We will have more flights depending on the demand, Mr. Bagchi said, indicating that the Union government is and keeping all operation on the table and will press more aircraft into service for the operation if needed. One Indian a caregiver for Kerala was injured in the attack by Hamas last Saturday, Mr. Bagchi said, adding that the person is currently undergoing treatment. There has been no Indian casualties. He said it is a terrorist attack. Mr. Bagchi categorically stated that India consider last Saturday strike against Israel a terrorist attack. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had condemned the terrorism and expressed solidarity with Israel people following the attack by Hamas on Saturday. The official spokesperson said that there was a universal obligation to observe humanitarian law but also emphasized the requirement to fight against international terrorism. However, Mr. Bagchi did not give a clear answer to journalists' question on whether India considers Hamas a terror organization, saying that such a determination was the responsibility of department. The MEA spokesperson said, "Our focus is to help our citizens." His comments were for the first set of detailed remarks from the MEA about the situation in West Bank. The official spokesperson said there was a universal obligation to observe humanitarian law but also emphasized the requirement to fight against international terrorism. However, Mr. Bakshi did not give a clear answer to a journalist's answer on whether India considers Hamas a terrorist organization, saying that such a determination was the responsibility of our department. The MEA spokesperson said our focus is to help our citizens. His comments were the first set of detailed remarks from the MEA about the situation in West Asia since Saturday's air, land and sea attack on Israel and its retaliatory air attack on Gaza Strip. तो बेसिकली हुआ क्या है यहाँ पर जो अभी पहले जब हमास ग्रुप ने अटैक कर लिया हमास ग्रुप ने क्या किया ना अटैक कर लिया पहले इसराइल के ऊपर जब इसराइल के ऊपर अटैक हुआ तो मोदी ने डायरेक्टली कंडेम कर दिया अभी कंडेमनेशन हो तो गया है ना तो कंडेमनेशन हो गया फिर अभी अगर सपोर्ट नहीं करेंगे तो कैसे बाहर निकाल के लाएंगे अपना अभी जो 18,000 का 18,000 हाँ तो 18,000 इंडियंस आर देयर इन इजराइल है ना तो इन्हें इवाकुएट करना है तो इन्हें इवाकुएट करने के लिए पहले तो इजराइल का सपोर्ट को कर लिया मोदी ने है ना पहले इंडिया पहला पॉइंट क्या है पहला जो है मोदी इजराइल को पहले सपोर्ट कर दिया क्योंकि डायरेक्ट सडन अटैक हुआ है सेकंड पॉइंट है अभी क्या किया ना ये पैलेस्टाइन के लिए बोले कि हाँ हम आपके लिए खड़े हुए हैं तो ये सेकंड पॉइंट हो गया तो थर्ड पॉइंट जो है इनका तो मेन पॉइंट है टू इवैक्यूएट 18,000 पीपल दैट हु आर इंडियन सिटीजन है ना चलिए नेक्स्ट देखते हैं देन retail inflation cooled from 6.83% in August to 5% in September. है ना। तो चलिए देख लेते हैं इसे। India's retail inflation is from 6.83% in August to 5.02% in September, breaking a two-month streak over the tolerance threshold of Reserve Bank of India, with the rise in food price easing to 6.6% from almost 10%. Rural inflation stood at 5.33% in September, compared to 7% in August, while the price rise held by the urban consumer moderated to 4.6%. Last month, from 6.6% in August, inflation in vegetable crashed from 26.1% in August to 3.4% in September. ये बहुत बड़ा जंप हुआ है in September, but the inflation in cereals remained sticky at 11%, and the pace of price rise in pulses rose from 13% in August to 16.4% last month. The LPG cylinder price cuts unveiled by the center last month pulled year-on-year inflation in fuel and light prices for household from 4.3% in August to minus 0.1% in September. Base effect from the September 2022 fell when consumer price rose 7.4% also helped ease the inflation rate file, which was lower than economists' expectation but almost in the line with the central bank's monetary policy committee projection. Last week, the MPC read its average inflation projection for the July to September quarter from the 6.2% to 6.4%, and the number released by the National Statistical Office on the on Thursday for the average base at 6.43%. In the current quarter, the MPC experts expect inflation to average 5.6% for the full year 2023-24. It expects an average rate of 5.4%. However, 13 of the 22 states for which the NSO had released inflation rate recorded a higher price rise than the headline figure of 5.2%. Then inflation, Rajasthan, Haryana recorded the steepest inflation is 6.5%. Inflation was lowered in Chhattisgarh at 1.98% and below the 5% mark in 8 other states, including Tamil Nadu 4.5%, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal 3.7%, Kerala 4.7%. From here, the Kharif harvest will have a bearing on inflation along with El Nino effect in Asia and the evolution of Israel-Palestinian crisis, said Manas Ranjan, chief economist at Bank of Baroda. Moreover, cost of services like health, health of 5.9% in September and personal care of 8.5% and are still rising, he pointed out. तो बेसिकली जो बोला गया है क्या ना, वेजिटेबल प्राइस का शार्प डिक्लाइन हुआ है। यहाँ पर देख लीजिए, अभी 26.1% से डायरेक्ट 3.4% तक आ गया है ना। तो मतलब वेजिटेबल के प्राइस में 26% से ऑन एन एवरेज डाउन कितना हुआ है, 3.4% तक आ गया, ठीक है ना। लेकिन बढ़ गया है कौन सा, सीरियल का प्राइस बढ़ गया है ना। जैसे सबसे लोएस्ट कौन है, छत्तीसगढ़। छत्तीसगढ़ छत्तीसगढ़ कितने में, 1.98% में, ठीक है। अदर सर्विस जैसे कि हेल्थ बढ़ गया है 5.9% तक सितंबर में, पर्सनल केयर का बढ़ गया है 8.5%, देन आर स्टिल राइजिंग ऑल्सो, है ना। नेक्स्ट देखते हैं, इंडिया रैंक्स 111 आउट ऑफ इंडिया रैंक्स 111 आउट ऑफ 125 कंट्रीज इन हंगर इंडेक्स। अभी 104 भी था, अभी 104 से अभी डायरेक्ट चला गया है 111। तो 11 नंबर पे आउट ऑफ 125 इंडिया रैंक्स India ranks 111 out of a total of 125 countries in the Global Hunger Index in 2023, with its progress against hunger nearly halted since 2015, reflecting a global trend. The Union government, though, contested India's performance for the third year in a row, citing flawed methodology. Afghanistan, Haiti, and 12 sub-Saharan countries performed worse than India on GHI. India's ranking is based on the GHI score of 28.7%. अच्छा, out of 100. Out of 100 कितना है? 28.7%. This is equal to 111 rank out of 125. Where 0 is the best score, no hunger, and 100 is the worst. अच्छा, तो इसमें से जो ये यहाँ से अगर आप ऊपर तक जाओगे मतलब 28 से बढ़ के 1 तक जाओगे तो आपका हंगर इंडेक्स 1 और 0 तक जाओगे तो जो 0 स्कोर करेगा उसे 1 नंबर का प्राइज मतलब रैंक मिल जाएगा एंड 100 अगर कोई लाता है 100 तो वो से है The GHI score is based on a formula which combines four indicators that together capture the multidimensional nature of hunger, including undernourishment, child stunting, child wasting, and child mortality. है ना मल्टीडायमेंशनल इन नेचर बट इंक्लूडिंग क्या क्या ना अंडर नरिशमेंट ये थोड़ा नोट कर लीजिएगा अंडर नरिशमेंट देन चाइल्ड स्टंटिंग चाइल्ड वेस्टिंग एंड चाइल्ड मोर्टालिटी चाइल्ड मोर्टालिटी क्या इन्फेंट मोर्टालिटी को चाइल्ड बोल रहे हैं चाइल्ड मोर्टालिटी चाइल्ड वेस्टिंग देन चाइल्ड स्टंटिंग अंडर नरिशमेंट चार पॉइंट है The Ministry of Women and Child Development yet again questioned the GHI and called it a flawed measure of hunger that does not reflect India's true position. The GHI uses the same data sources for all countries to calculate the respective country scores. This ensures that all the rates used have been produced using comparable methodologies. Mariama Weimer, senior policy advisor at GHI, said in an email response. तो इंडिया क्लेम कहता है कि ये जो पैरामीटर इंडिया का क्लेम है जीएचआई जो पैरामीटर यूज करता है वो सही नहीं है और जीएचआई क्या बोल रहा है जीएचआई ये बोल रहा है कि हम तो खाली आपके लिए ही नहीं कर रहे हैं पूरा जितने सारे 125 कंट्री के लिए ही ये सेम पैरामीटर में और सेम मेथोडोलॉजी में हम लोग कैलकुलेट कर रहे हैं तो गलत कैसे हो सकता है आपके लिए सही और आपके लिए गलत और दूसरे लोगों के लिए सही तो ऐसा ही चल रहा है तो चलिए नेक्स्ट देखते हैं एक की स्टेप बाय बिहार टू प्रमोट बेटर सोशल जस्टिस There are certain dates which acquire greater significance by a stroke of history, and October 2, 2023 is one such date. A day when the Bihar government released the data for a caste-based survey known as the Bihar Jati Adharit Ganana. Let us remember not to forget a caste-based census should provide accurate and up-to-date data on the description and a caste-based census should provide accurate and up-to-date data on the distribution and socio-economic status of the various castes and communities in India. This data is essential for evidence-based policy formulation and implementation. It can help policymakers identify marginalized and disadvantaged groups and design targeted interventions to uplift them. India has a long history of caste-based discrimination and oppressions. A caste-based census can help in recognizing and qualifying The extent of historical injustice and disparities that exist in society, acknowledging these disparities in a critical step towards addressing them. Accuracy for efficacy. With accurate caste-based data, the government can develop more effective and targeted welfare programs. These programs can be developed to the specific needs of different caste groups, ensuring that the benefits of government schemes reach the most vulnerable sections of the society. Regular caste-based sensor data can help track the progress of different caste groups over time. This allows for the evaluation of the effectiveness of the policy and programs and aimed at social justice and affirmative action. It also enables the government to make necessary adjustments to policies when needed. Caste-based data can help ensure the fair representation of marginalized communities in government, education, and employment. Reservation and affirmative action policies are often based on caste and accurate data is crucial to determine the appropriate level of representation required. A caste-based census promotes transparency and accountability in government efforts to promote social justice. It allows citizens to hold the government accountable for the equitable distribution of resources and opportunities with accurate data. There is a risk of a caste certificate being measured for personal gain or political purposes. A caste-based census can help verify and authenticate the caste status of individuals, reducing the likelihood of fraud and ensuring that benefits are directed to those who genuinely need them. A subject of debate. However, it is important to note that the idea of conducting a caste-based census in India has been a subject of debate and controversy. Some argue that it could perpetuate and deepen caste division, while others believe that it is necessary to address historical injustice and promote social justice. The decision to conduct such a census involves careful consideration of these arguments and a balanced approach to address the complex issue of the caste-based disparities in India. Caste discrimination in India is a deeply entrenched social issue that has persisted for centuries. Several factors highlights the need for committed government intervention to address this problem. First, historical injustice. Caste discrimination has its roots in centuries of historical oppressions and marginalization. It has resulted in the social, economic, and educational backwardness, and certain caste groups. Government intervention is necessary to rectify these hospitals' historical injustice. Second, constitutional mandate. The Indian Constitution recognizes the existence of caste-based discrimination and inequality and provides for affirmative actions measures such as reservation and in education, employment, and to uplift historically disadvantaged groups. The government has a constitutional obligation to implement and enforce these provisions. Third, human rights discrimination based on caste is a violation of human rights. The government has a responsibility to protect human rights of all its citizens, which includes the right to equality, dignity, and non-discrimination. Committed government intervention is necessary to ensure that these rights are upheld. Fourth, social cohesion. So caste discrimination perpetuates social divisions and hinders social cohesion. It creates a sense of inequality and injustice among marginalized groups and can lead to social unrest. Government intervention is essential to promote social harmony and unity. Fifth, economic development. Caste discrimination often leads to economic economic disparities with certain caste groups facing limited access to education and employment opportunities. Government intervention through the affirmative action policy can help bridge these gaps and to promote economic development for all. Six, education discrimination can hinder education discrimination can hinder access to quality education for marginalized caste groups. Government intervention is necessary to ensure that educational opportunities are accessible to all, irrespective of caste, and that discrimination within educational institution is eliminated. Subject of employment. Seventh, employment. Discrimination in employment can limit job opportunity for certain caste groups. Government intervention is required to enforce anti-discrimination has law as anti-discrimination to promote fair employment practices, including affirmative action in the public sector. Each political representation, Dalits and other marginalized caste groups have historically been underrepresented in political positions. Government intervention is needed to promote their political participation and representation, which is crucial for addressing their concerns. Ninth, awareness and sensitization. The government can play a significant role in creating awareness about the harms of caste discrimination and promoting social sensitivity and inclusivity through the educational program and campaigns. 10th, legal framework. Government intervention is crucial to strengthening and enforcing anti-discrimination laws and policies aimed at eradicating caste discrimination. Without a committed government efforts, these laws may remain ineffective. In conclusion, caste discrimination is deeply ingrained a problem in India that requires sustained and committed government intervention to address. Such intervention is not only essential to rectify historical injustices but also to uphold the principle of equality, justice, and human rights for all citizens regardless of their caste और social background. तो फ्रेंड्स ये जो 10 पॉइंट है ये पहले वन बाय वन आपको मार्क करना है क्योंकि ये आपका जो है इसमें पूछा जाएगा सोशल इशू. ये जीएस वन का सोशल इशू में भी आ सकता है और जीएस टू में गवर्नेंस में ये आ सकता है. ठीक है ना. तो मैं मार्क कर दे रहा हूँ पॉइंट वन, ये पॉइंट वन, पॉइंट टू, पॉइंट थ्री, सॉरी ठीक है ये पॉइंट लिख लीजिए. देन ये वाला जो है ये फिफ्थ हो गया. फिफ्थ, सिक्स, सेवन, 8, 9, 10. इसमें जो पहला जो दिया गया है जैसे कि ये 2 नंबर का है क्या वाला कास्ट एंड डिस्क्रिमिनेशन इन इंडिया इज डीपली entrenched. देन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मैंडेट. देन थर्ड हो गया क्या ह्यूमन राइट्स डिस्क्रिमिनेशन बेस्ड ऑन कास्ट एंड इज ए वायोलेशन ह्यूमन राइट्स. देन फोर्थ हो गया आपका सोशल कोहेशन कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. देन फिफ्थ हो गया इकोनॉमिक्स डेवलपमेंट. देन एजुकेशन डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. देन एम्प्लॉयमेंट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. देन एट्थ है पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन दलित वगैरह के लिए. अवेयरनेस ऑफ सैनिटाइजेशन सेंसिटाइजेशन. देन 10th हो गया लीगल फ्रेमवर्क. ये 10 पॉइंट को आपको नोट करके रख लेना है क्योंकि ये सोशल इशू में भी आएगा गवर्नेंस में भी आ सकता है. चलिए should the 50% should the 50% legal ceiling on reservation is reconsidered. On October 2, the Bihar government released the data of its caste survey. The data showed that the other backward classes, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, together account for about 84% of our population. This has reopened. Scheduled caste and scheduled tribe together account about 84% of the population. This has reopened the debate on whether 50% legal ceiling on caste-based reservation should be removed. Kalyan Singh, Kalaya Rasan A. and Alok Prasanna discussed this question in a conversation moderated by Pon Bhasant B.A. expert. Do you think the initial findings of the Bihar caste survey has necessitated the reconsidering of the ceiling of 50% on the reservation set by the Supreme Court in Indra Sawhney case 1992? क्या होता है the breaching of 50% ceiling look like an inevitable historical progress. Many political scientists and sociologists view the 50% ceiling as arbitrary because the judiciary did not have the number to back that cap. For all practical purposes, some states have already breached this. Tamil Nadu provides 69% reservation to a 1994 law which it has protected from judicial review by getting it laid under the ninth schedule of the Constitution. More so, the 10% reservation for the economically weaker sections brought in the central government in 2019 has in a way already breached the 50% ceiling. Alok Prasanna. The 50% ceiling came out of nowhere basically in one judgment in Balaji 1962 M.R. Balaji. The court said maybe there has to be some extent limit. Though then in the T. Devadarsan it extended the limit to government jobs as well and said that it did not want to take away equality of opportunity guaranteed under the consideration letter in the N.M. Thomas case 1976. The judiciary had rethink the Supreme pushback. Court found on the 50% ceiling unreasoned and pushed back against it. States such as Karnataka and Tamil Nadu thought that they could be provide more reservation. However, the bigger pushback came in the Mondal case, Indra Sawhney, where the judiciary essentially elevated the principal 50% limit almost to a status of a fundamental right. Even in EWS judgment, which has a huge problem of its own, the Supreme Court said it may be okay with 10% for the EWS, but that should not mean that it is okay to go beyond 50% for the caste-based reservation. The principal way the judiciary is, however, not able to define a decision in a principled way. One big state such as Bihar has to take the lead and dare the court with the information it has and a litigation strategy. Are we willing to ask the court to reconsider its judgment? In the Indra Sawhney case, this is not difficult and or impossible per se, but the political movement has to be right. Bihar has only released the caste-wise count of its population, not the socio-economic data. Yet there has been debate about the extent of backwardness of the castes within the UPSC classification. There have been demands from a few communities for the inclusion into OBC, SC, and ST categories. Will the release of socio-economic data lead to demands for the reconfiguration of these categories? OBC is an administrative category and not a caste category. Their heterogeneous caste groups under what we call OBC. There is a risk of the landed and locally dominant communities taking more advantage of subcategorization of communities which do not have enough representation will become necessary. Here has the extreme backward classes category and Tamil Nadu the most backward classes category. The process of subcategorization will be inevitable not just for the political reason but for the reasons of right to representation and for addressing backwardnesses. In the 1980s, Karnataka Venkateswamy Commission reports caused a huge controversy because the Bukaligas and the Lingayat were found to be much better off than the most other backward class castes. In the present context, the Jasivi Lakshman Rao Patil, Patil case where reservation for the Marathas was struck down, the Supreme Court said Maratha are as well of as any other upper caste. This leads us to a conceptual problem. Unlike SC/STs, there is no clear way of defining the OBC. The Constitution says the OBC are socially and economically backward classes. We are saying let's look at data, but the data are useful when you have some idea of what you are looking for. For instance, if the number of government jobs in a factor is a factor. A lot of advanced OBC will not be eligible for reservation just by the setting a barrier and saying that everybody who is below is a SCBC may have led us to this position which certain castes have actually taken the big chunk. Therefore, sub-categorization is necessary, but it can only happen when there is some serious conceptual jurisprudential rethinking of who belong to social and educationally backward classes. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has raised the slogan of Jitni Abadi Utna Haq, representation according to the population. Will a caste census lead to individual caste groups demanding separate reservation depending on their numbers? What will be the implementation of such demands? The BJP government in Kerala Sorry, the BJP government of in Karnataka just before 2023 assembly election tried to do a sub-categorization within the SCs. There was such a strong political reaction to it that the most well-off among the SC communities who had started to support the BJP attacked BS Yedurappa's house. Sub-categorization is a zero-sum game. The BJP thought it would get the less well of siege on its side. However, it ended up losing the support of the better of SCs. Open up the question of whether some caste should even be on the list. It could get assumed in a political tug of war and may necessarily lead to most optimal solution in the context of ensuring representation. I am not sure, Mr. Gandhi, you did in the sense of essentially translating it into reservation according to the population. The question he is raising is that there is some kind of group-based deprivations. The slogan does not mean dividing castes at a granular level, but grouping together sets of castes which are similar positioned to make a group-based representation or policy response to address the deprivations. Obviously, there is a risk that political parties or caste groups will take the slogan to mean specific caste-based mobilization. We need to remember that caste is always divisive. Whether addressing group-based deprivation will lead to caste-based mobilization is something we need to be mindful of, but it need not to that way. We can simultaneously address caste-based deprivation while stopping caste-based mobilization. There is validity in that criticism, but it is also not something though to say to not to something caste-based. This reason is these identities are there. It is just it's just that the administrative caste is not officially recording them. तुरंत यानी थोड़ा रूल देख लीजिए बाकी जो रेस्ट का जो क्वेश्चन है देख लेंगे थोड़ा बेसिकली क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर का है क्यों तो ये उतना इम्पोर्टेंट है नहीं फिर भी एक स्टूडेंट है, जैसे कि मतलब 50% से एक्सीड हो गया है ये तमिलनाडु वगैरह में, तो इसको माइंड में रखना होगा कि हाँ ये क्वेश्चन लिखा गया है। चलिए नेक्स्ट देखते हैं। द कास्ट ऑफ द केस फॉर कास्ट सेंसस इन इंडिया। कास्ट सेंसस इन इंडिया। After the publication of a survey in Bihar which found that 63% of Bihar's 13 crore population belong to caste listed under the extremely backward classes CBC and other backward classes OBC category, Prime Minister Narendra Modi criticized and rejected the demand for a nationwide caste census made by the Congress and several other opposition parties. But do socioeconomic data indicate the intersection between class and caste-based deprivation in Indian society is evident in a gamut of social economic statistics. The average monthly per capita consumption expenditure of scheduled tribe, scheduled caste, OBC households in rural areas were respectively 65%, 73%, 84% of the MPCE of others, that is general category, as per the National Sample Survey 2011-12. In urban areas, the average NPCE of the SC, ST and OBC household was 58%, 63%, 70% of the general category in 2011-12. The persistence of inequality across caste categories in India can also be seen in the multidimensional poverty estimates based on the National Family Health Survey NFH 4 2015-16, a research paper by scholar from NIT Rourkela has estimated that while on average 25% of the Indians were multidimensionally poor, 44.4%, SC is 29%, 29.2%, OBC is 24.5%, and other 14.9%. प्रधान मंत्री आई पंडापन्ना बी प्रधान J. On even burden of a multidimensional poverty in India, a caste-based analysis plus 1 plus 1 2022 July 29 17 7. As per this estimate, while the SC, ST and OBC taken together comprised around 73% of Indian population, they accounted for 84% of the country's poor. Over 50% of the India's dimensionally poor belonged to the OBC category. Estimate by scholars from the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiatives shows that while almost 20% of all Indians were multidimensionally poor in the 2015-16, the poverty headcount ratio among SC/ST was 50.6% and SC 33.3%, OBC 27.72%, and others 15.6%. Examining multidimensional poverty reduction in India 2005-6, 2015-16. Insights and oversights of the headcounts ratio February 19, 2021. World development volume as per this estimate, while SC/STs and OBCs taken together comprised around the 77.6% of the Indian population in 2005 and 6. This share increased almost 84% of the country's poor in 2015-16. This multidimensional poverty headcount ratio among Muslims at 31% was also higher than that of Hindus 28%, Christians 16%, and other religious community 15.7%. The Sajar Committee report 2006 and estimated that 31% of the Muslims were below poverty line on the basis of the NSS 61% percent round 2004-5. Then Su-31 30 MK1 upgrade. The long pending Su-30 MK1 upgrade will be initially ruled out with 84 jets and will largely be an indigenous effort, sources said. Air Chief Marshal Chaudhary had said that 51 system would be upgraded and 84 jets and the indigenous content of 78%. Next, India should learn lesson from attack on Israel, says NSG chief Ajit Doval. National Security Guard Director NSG General M.A. Ganpati said on Thursday that in the wake of terror attack in Israel, India needs to have a crisis management response framework at the national level of extreme terrorist scenarios. He said, despite the technological advancement, it is the men and weapon which make the final difference. Mr. Ganpati said the scale and proportion of the unprecedented terror attack in Israel would never have been envisaged as the terrorists could get under the radar of extremely sophisticated technological infrastructure and prepare. Mr. Ganpati said that scale and proportion of the unprecedented terror attack in Israel would never have been envisaged as the terrorists could get under the radar of extremely sophisticated technological infrastructure perpetuated and vastly attacked. There are two lessons to be learned here. We need to have a framework of crisis management response at the national level on extreme terroristic scenarios, and while the reliance on the technology imperatives, it has to be complemented by highly skilled personals who are at the pinnacle of their craft. We need to constantly invest in the skill upgradation of our personnel who are the ultimate redeemer in a terrorist response mechanism, Mr. Ganpati said. Then Supreme Court urges to rethink plea to end 26-week pregnancy. A three-judge bench headed by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud on Thursday urged a married woman to reconsider her decision to do away with her third pregnancy, which has now proved 26 weeks. Chief Justice Chandrachud said that as much as court respected the woman's right to reproductive autonomy, it could be oblivious to the rights of her unborn child. The court asked the woman whether she wanted a judicial order directing the doctor at the aims to commit ferticides. We must. She is a married woman. What was she doing for 26 weeks? She has two children. She knows that consequences also. What you want us to tell the doctors to do, to choose to close the portal heart, he asked. The women's council said she did not want to medically terminate the pregnancy but wanted a C-section. Her second child was only a 1 year old, and she did not want to carry her third pregnancy towards a full term. But the court said there was a grave probability that an immediate interference in the pregnancy may put the child in danger. Additionally, Solicitor General Aishwarya Bhatti said the woman was in a vulnerable state. She herself is not sure. We also tried to counsel her at one stage. She agreed. We told her the baby can be given in adoption. The aims can take care of mental health issues. She submitted. The court adjourned the case for the further hearing on October 13. And this is all for today. We will meet from tomorrow onwards with new newspaper news articles and अभी से थोड़ा एनालिसिस भी करेंगे, खाली रीडिंग नहीं करेंगे, अभी से थोड़ा एनालिसिस भी करेंगे, थोड़ा थोड़ा करके मतलब एनालिसिस से करके फिर फुल फ्लेज में करेंगे एनालिसिस है ना। तो थैंक्स फॉर सपोर्टिंग फ्रेंड्स, मेरा कल 50 सब्सक्राइबर हो गया, तो इसके लिए बहुत बहुत थैंक्स टू ऑल माय सब्सक्राइबर्स। चलिए कल मिलते हैं, थैंक्स थैंक्स अ लॉट।